This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Well, it looks like electric cars are really having an impact. Americans are using less gasoline and demand will not return to pre-pandemic levels. The Energy Information Administration says the U.S. used 8.78 million barrels of gas a day last year, which is a drop of 6% compared to before the pandemic. And the EIA expects gas consumption to continue to fall this year and next. Another reason for the drop is that Americans are driving about 10% less than before the pandemic, since more people work remotely or have a hybrid work schedule. Another reason is that ICE cars are becoming more fuel efficient, but it's also because more and more people are buying electric vehicles. No doubt you've heard about all those Hyundais and Kias getting stolen. Well, there's a software fix on the way for that. Some models built before 2020 didn't have an engine immobilizer, which prevents the car from starting if the key isn't near the vehicle. Owners of those vehicles were hit with a wave of thefts after videos on social media showed how to start the cars with a fairly simple hack. State Farm and Progressive insurance companies even refuse to insure those cars in some states. Hyundai and Kia say they have a fix, and they're now equipping all new vehicles with immobilizers. Looks like that $52 billion Chips and Science Act is showing some real results. General Motors signed a deal with the semiconductor maker GlobalFoundries to get the chips that it needs, and that includes GM suppliers as well. GlobalFoundries will make the chips at an existing factory in New York under a 3-year agreement. Even though the number of chips going into cars is growing, GM is going to chop the number of unique chips it uses by 95% and make them in higher volume at lower costs. The CHIP Act was enacted last summer to bring chip manufacturing back to the U.S. and was passed with strong bipartisan support.
At Schaeffler, we pioneer motion. Electrifying mobility, manufacturing smarter, reducing CO2 emissions, making energy production clean. Schaeffler pioneers motion to advance how the world moves.
Subaru pulled the wraps off the all-new Crosstrek for the American market at the Chicago Auto Show. It's about the same size as the outgoing model, so it looks fairly similar. But in our opinion, all the angles have been dialed up a notch, and the grille is bigger too. The use of more structural adhesive improves chassis stiffness by 10%, which Subaru says should provide better ride and handling. 2 engines are available, a 2-liter or 2.5-liter 4-cylinder. The 2-liter makes 152 horsepower, while the 2.5-liter makes 182. And both are mated to a CVT, which sadly means the Crosstrek's manual option is dead. Hill start assist, hill descent control, all-wheel drive, and electronic power steering are all standard. The updated interior falls in line with other new Subarus and is highlighted by a large center screen laid out in portrait mode. Because the manual trans is gone, the Crosstrek's base price is up, but at just over $26,000 including destination, it's only about $70 more than a comparable 2022 model. Looks like Volkswagen is stepping up its pickup truck game. In January, we reported about plans to make an electric pickup based on the Ford Ranger that will be for markets outside of the U.S., but it also has something in store for North America. Executives for the company say they're exploring an electrified pickup, either a plug-in hybrid or a fully electric, for the U.S. that would leverage an existing platform within VW. Specifically, the Atlas and Taos were mentioned, along with, quote, other platforms that we have not launched yet. And we know that is not going to be the Scout. A decision on the truck will be made in the second half of the year. But one thing is for sure, It won't be gas or diesel only. Maybach is releasing its first plug-in hybrid, a version of the Mercedes S-Class sedan. The Maybach S580e features a 367 horsepower, 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine paired with a 110 kilowatt or 150 horsepower electric motor, which combine for a total output of 510 horsepower. Mercedes claims a 0 to 100 km/h time of 5.1 seconds. Working with a 28 kilowatt-hour battery pack, range is estimated at 100 kilometers or 62 miles on the WLTP cycle. The S580e will initially be available in China, followed by Thailand, Europe, and other countries. But Maybach won't wait around too long to introduce its next EV. It says it will present its first fully electric model as early as this year. And Mercedes is offering an over-the-air update for its MBUX infotainment system that adapts to the driver's behavior. The system remembers typical settings and routes and will suggest personalized infotainment, comfort, and vehicle functions that are tailored to specific driving situations. The update also places functions automatically on the screen if they are relevant with the help of artificial intelligence. The free OTA update is available for C and S-Class models built in 2021, and the feature is standard on all models built after that.
We want to know what drives your testing. OTA, connected car, diagnostics, remote testing. Intrepid Control Systems is here to help you work from anywhere. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
We already knew that the Gigacastings Tesla is using replaces about 140 separate stampings in a car. IDRA, the company that makes the giant casting machines that makes those castings, tells Reuters that they can cut the cost of a chassis by 40% and the cost of the parts that go on the chassis by 30%. IDRA has orders for gigapresses from 3 unnamed automakers, but Reuters reports that one of them is the Hyundai Group. IDRA also predicts that 80% of BEV platforms will use them by 2035. Maybe that's why IDRA is now facing competition from the Buehler Group in Europe, the Ube Corporation and Shibuya Machine in Japan, and Yazumi and Haitian in China. Even so, IDRA says fixing a design flaw is a lot easier with a bunch of smaller stampings than with one giant casting. And maybe that's why automakers like Volkswagen and BMW are not interested in using Gigacastings. Mustang is getting a new pair of lightweight shoes. Ford announced a collaboration with Carbon Revolution on a unique set of carbon fiber wheels that will be available on the new Dark Horse version of the Mustang. They're 19-inch wheels that weigh about 20 pounds each, which is 37% lighter than the Dark Horse's aluminum wheels. Ford says they're the first production wheel from Carbon Revolution with the lug nuts located between the spokes, and the first to use blue fiber, which is located near the rim between the spokes. No price was given, but a set of carbon fiber wheels still easily sits in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, and sometimes more than that. China is using its dominance in EV batteries to become an export powerhouse. Last month, it exported nearly 8 gigawatt hours of batteries, with about 85% of them being NMC batteries. Presumably, the rest were LFP, or lithium iron phosphate. 1 gigawatt hour is the equivalent of 1 million kilowatts. So if we assume an average battery pack size of 70 kilowatt hours, then China exported enough batteries to make over 114,000 BEVs in 1 month. And look for that to go up even more. CATL and BYD are the top 2 battery makers in the world, and they're both adding more capacity. With a super tight labor market, more and more companies are buying robots to get the work done. North American companies bought an all-time record of 44,100 robots last year, worth over $2.4 billion. More than half of those robots were ordered by automakers and suppliers, and a lot of them are going into new plants to build electric vehicles. Even though robot orders slowed in the fourth quarter, the underlying demand for them should stay strong. The U.S. unemployment rate is now the lowest it's been since 1969, and the tight labor market shows no signs of letting up. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering, boost your game. And by Schaeffler, we pioneer motion. Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details, and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.